Hey guys, it's Kevin Answer here for the Vampire Diaries, Season 6, Episode 20, I Leave My Happy Home for You, and this was a really good episode. I definitely really enjoyed this episode. I didn't think it was, a bad episode. I just felt this episode was a little bit too convoluted. I felt there was a little bit too much going on. Stories are definitely starting to intertwine, but I just felt there was just a little too much going on, especially with Matt and Alaric and everything. Well, not Alaric, but like Matt and Tyler. I didn't really care as much about that, but let's get this episode because I just definitely really enjoyed it. Definitely one of the best episodes of the season. Absolutely loved it, and they're really setting up Nina Dobrev's exit very well. So we start with Alaric. He's at his desk grading papers, and Jo calls, and she says it's her last night as a single woman, and it's just this really cute scene. I've talked about how much I love Alaric and Jo together. Seriously, I could talk about how much I love them all day. I really love them in the scene. She says she can't wait to get married, and Rick concurs. And then in the colony, he hears a creaking footstep outside his classroom, goes to check. His head is bagged, and he's grabbed from behind. Meanwhile, a cop shows up to the hospital, turns up to ask to talk to Jo privately, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. He pulls up his shirt, and we find out that's actually for a bachelorette party, and Elena's there with Bonnie, and they turn on the boombox, and Alaric is taken to the grill by Damon, Matt, and Steven for his bachelor blowout, and I thought it was really funny that we just saw them having these bachelor parties, just fun scenes like this. I definitely really enjoyed. So after the male stripper, they have subs and milkshakes since Jo is pregnant, and I love Jo. Like, she is a bride. She's not exactly a bridezilla, rather than a hormonal pregnant mother. Like, that's really what she is right now. I mean, she's very hormonal, obviously, because she's pregnant, and that's not so much it's not so much she's a bridezilla, but it was still very funny to see her, Of course, wedding planning is one of the hardest things that anyone would ever have to go through. I mean, everyone knows that, so she wonders what Alaric is doing and if his party is wilder than hers, and Bonnie asks Elaine about the cure, and I like that Bonnie asked Elaine about this, because obviously we knew that Elena was asked about it, and I like that, Damon and Bonnie have that friendship, so he told her, and she says that Damon called to tell her that he was going to take the cure too, and she said that he called her after Elena bailed on him, and Elena admits that it freaked her out, and says it's all very complicated right now, and I can understand why it freaked her out. I mean, what Damon wants to do is very drastic. Who would have ever thought that Damon Salvatore would be a human, who we've never seen as a human? We've always seen him as a mythical, as a vampire. We've never seen him in his true human form, and we've seen him as true human form, but we've never seen him as a human, and Elena agrees it'd just be weird. I mean, it's great that they're doing. I definitely enjoyed, seeing seeing this scene. I thought it was definitely really good, but it definitely is just a little bit weird just that he wants to take the cure. It really just show how much he loves her, but it just kind of caught her off guard. So Jo comes back and with more food, and Damon tells Alaric that he offered to take the cure with her, and he says Elena can take it, then he can drink her blood and also turn human, and Alaric asks if he really wants to be human. Of course, Alaric's going to ask him this because obviously they're like best friends, and Damon says he wants to be with Elena, and he asks if he told Stefan, and Damon says he will eventually, and they toast to Alaric's impending nuptials. So Tyler shows up late, and Matt says he doesn't blame him since they were almost killed last time, and Tyler's concerned that Matt is chugging booze with pain meds, and I was interested in seeing what they were going to do here, because I haven't talked about this, but Michael Trevino is also leaving the show as Tyler, who I don't really give a shit about his character, because they've had nothing to do with him all season. Honestly, they've had literally nothing to do with him, so I don't care as much about his exit. Plus, I've never really loved Tyler's character. The only time I loved Tyler's character is when they tried to get a relationship between Caroline and Tyler. That I really liked. But then Klaus came along, and I started to ship Caroline, and I did not like Tyler after that. So I mean, I thought Tyler was cool, like, last season, but this season they've literally had nothing to do with him. They have that whole storyline with Liv, but other than that, ever since Liv left, there's no point in Tyler being on the show anymore. So Enzo shows up, and Matt isn't happy to see him, and Enzo asks where Stefan is, and Matt says he doesn't know or care, and Stefan's trying to call Caroline, but gets voicemail again. I kind of like that Caroline was absent this episode. I mean, we had so much with her last week that it was nice we took a little break from her. And he says he's at Alaric's bachelor party at their house and tells her he's been ducking his mother. He asks her to call her back soon and says they're both engaged in avoidance, but he has problems to talk about, and he says she should be there and asks her to come home. And I can understand why Caroline got away. Obviously, she wants to be by herself right now because she's back to human and she needs time to grieve, and I like seeing that. So Enzo's there and says that was adorable. Stefan asks why he's there. Enzo says he's there on behalf of his mother. He says her ascendant was destroyed and she needs him. And Stefan asks what Enzo knows about his mother. And Lilly is then at the grill getting a little Ripper hungry. She follows a guy out of the bar and vamps out. And I have to say, I don't really like where they're going with Lily's character. I mean, I liked her last week, but here's the thing. They've only created her character so we have a villain for this season. Because we didn't have a villain until Lily came around. The only reason she's here is just to be a villain. And basically, you can tell that she definitely is. There are times where I'm like, is she a villain? Is she not a villain? It's just, I don't really like her character. I mean, she's not Marcos. Marcos is like the most random villain ever. I thought, Marcos was a good villain last year, but he was still very random, and this is pretty much the same as that. So, Stefan says Enzo went on, she basically told him that she went off the deep, and she says it was a one-time thing. Stefan thanks her for the Ripper gene, and says they should talk, and he tells her how he salivates at the back of his mouth, and his veins itch when the hunger starts to consume him. He says the world around falls apart, and all he can hear is the pulsing of blood, and how it belongs to him. And he slaps his hand onto hers, and says she must not have that problem, and Matt digs out some priceless liquor, and Tyler asks if he's drinking himself to death, and Tyler offers to drive him home, and Matt asks about the deputy training program. He says Tyler stopped calling him Cupcake finally, and Matt says he knows Tyler kicked Taylor's ass and can't control his range, and Tyler says he may have to shoot someone in the line of duty, and that would trigger his werewolf curse, and he doesn't want that, because obviously he's human right now. So Matt provokes him and says he needs to control it, and I just didn't care as much about the storyline because we've had this storyline all season. Tyler trying to control his anger. This has been the same storyline all season, and it's really just, it's gotten old. I didn't care at all about this storyline, honestly. I didn't care. I really didn't. And I didn't really care too much about Enzo's either. I just found it boring. So Stefan calls Damon, tells him that their mom is Enzo's sire, and Stefan also says she's a Ripper. Damon says to lock her ass up, and Stefan says he will if it comes to it, and Damon doesn't mention him anything else, and says love to mom with some snark, and Enzo tells Damon he should have told Stefan he's hanging up his fangs in exchange for khakis, and Enzo says he pulled that out of Alaric's drunk head, and Damon calls Enzo his brother from the same mother, and asks when he was going to tell him. So Enzo tells Damon that he'll never go through with giving up his fangs. He says he's too selfish and knows because he left him to burn while Damon saved his own skin. He says even Elena can't change, and Damon's basic nature, which is true. I mean, Damon's always going to be, even though Damon's not really a bloodthirsty killer now, he will be that way if you, cross him. Basically, that's how Damon is. So, Jo asks Elena how she walked away from Damon making the equivalent of a vampire marriage proposal. And Jo said, and here we start to see Jo. I love seeing Jo just freaking out. This was really funny. She's talking about she can't find a wedding gown, and she can't stop eating, and can't get her sister to call back about her being her maid of honor. It's just a really fun scene, I have to say. Probably my favorite scene in this episode were Elena and Damon and Jo freaking out, honestly. Jo's scenes, Alaric and Jo, I just love these two together, and I love their storyline, and it's really providing some really nice things about the show. And Elena says she might miss the vampire perks, might get sick, or might find out she doesn't love Damon as a human. And Jo says she's an ex-witch marrying an ex-vampire and says it's great. And basically, Damon calls Elena as he spies on her from the clock tower. She asks why he's there, and he says he asked a girl a big question last night, and she left him hanging. She says that girl must be a flake, and he says maybe she's just soul-searching. Of course, he's talking about her, so basically he's going to try to get her to have this conversation with him again, which she really doesn't know what to say, which I can understand. So Stefan tries to teach his mom how to divert the Ripper issue by boozing, and he says it's this or squirrel and rabbit blood. She says her friends are gone and she needs to grieve. He tells her she's lucky Damon hasn't locked her in a cell yet, and she asks if this is a Ripper to Ripper talk, and he says he's reformed and thinks the relationship is worth saving. And Stefan says she got him to flip his humanity back on and says deep down she must feel something for him. And she says his father was a cheating abuser, and then a new powerful Lily was born and found a new family. While I should care about this, I really don't. I mean, I understand we're trying to bond, get these two to bond, but I just don't really care about the storyline. I want to, but I just don't care as much. Especially with the whole Caroline thing last week. It was a lot stronger last week, I have to say. That was definitely something I enjoyed more last week, and this I just thought was, I didn't really care. So then we see, though, that Stefan says they should start over and says they can start over. Pulls out a syringe under the table. He says to trust him. She says he could never look her in the eye when he was lying. She stabs him in the hand. He drops the syringe and she attacks a waitress. So all of a sudden, she's just attacking people. When we saw that, she was somewhat normal, now all of a sudden she's a killer. And, she's a Ripper, so I can understand that. So, I mean, that was pretty crazy. So she then takes off, and I do like that they're dealing with a Ripper and that they're not Rippers, that they're actually dealing with one, because I think it's actually, we've never actually seen them deal with a Ripper that's not one of the main characters, so I like that. It just seems like they just need a Ripper, so they brought her in. So Damon and Elena sit in the clock tower and chat. She asks if he really take the cure with her, or he was just afraid to lose her, and I thought this was a really sweet conversation, I have to say. And again, I'm just appreciating these Elena scenes more, because we're not gonna get a lot more of them, and especially with 2 episodes left this season. Oh my god, honestly. I'm going to be really upset when this season ends. I'm legitimately going to be upset. While this is not my favorite show or anything, I definitely love the characters. That's the thing I've said about the show that I love, is the characters. And Elena says Damon loves being a vampire and says she doesn't want him resenting her. He says he's sexy when he's resentful, and Elena asks if he's ready to give all this up. He stands and holds his hand out to her. Damon says he has something to show her, and they step off the tower together, and Matt's still boozing when Alaric finds him and says it's poor to drink from a $100 bottle of bourbon alone, and Matt tells Alaric he has 30 stitches in his side, and all his friends are killers except Alaric, and he tells Alaric he's a dick for bringing a kid into this, and he tells him that he and Jo should get away now before it's too late. And I kind of like that they're trying to get Alaric and Jo away from them, because honestly, these two want a normal life. They deserve a normal life. They deserve happiness. They haven't done anything wrong. They really do deserve a normal life together. And Stefan then compels the people to clean up his mom's mess, and Enzo shows up too and says it was a great family reunion. Stefan and Enzo are stuck since Damon isn't answering calls, obviously, because they need him, but of course he has a whole thing with Elena, so I like that things are connecting here. The second half of the episode I definitely like more than the first half, because here I was like, okay, I really like this episode now. So Enzo says you should get used to it, and Stefan asks what he means. Enzo says Damon is the cure and is planning on taking it with Elena, and Stefan says he would know if that was true, and Enzo says not. He says they can debate it or split up, and finds Lilly before she rips more heads off, and Bonnie tells Jo that Damon hijacked Elena, and so the party's off, and Lilly shows up then and says she was out for a walk and saw Bonnie, and I was very worried about what was going to happen in this scene, because as we know, Lilly is a Ripper, she's bloodthirsty, and who knew what was going to happen here. So Jo asks who this is, and she says she's the Salvatore's mom, and Lilly is furious that Bonnie destroyed the Ascendant, because obviously she needs that Ascendant, and Bonnie says even if there was another way to help, she wouldn't, and it's not really Bonnie's fault. She didn't mean to destroy it. I mean, in order for her to return back to her in time, it got destroyed. So Lilly comes at her, and Bonnie slaps her with some magic, says to get out, and Lilly lunges too fast for Bonnie to stop her and slashes at her neck. She then goes for Jo, who begs her to stop because she's pregnant, and Lilly stops, says it's twins, and wishes her luck, and zooms off, and Jo runs to help Bonnie, and Damon asks what's Elena's favorite vampire thing is, and she says healing people. And Damon says he loves everything, and I love this scene, definitely, because I like that he's asking her what she loves of being a vampire, because she's not really going to be a vampire for that much longer. I mean, I'm pretty sure we knew that she was going to take this cure, and he then says that he likes getting into people's heads. He magics her mind to her old house, which is now in ashes. He says he kissed her there for the first time, but Alaric scrubbed it off from her brain. And we'll remember that all these memories are still gone. She still doesn't remember any of them, and Elena says this isn't real. It's a fantasy he put in her brain. He says that's the point. He says he's had enough fantasy for now and would give it all up for her, and Elena says she wants the cure no matter how scary it is. Damon says he knows she's wanted since the day she became a vampire, and he says he's madly in love with her forever, which is true. Elena's never really been happy with being a vampire, and taking the cure won't change. He says he can handle reality if she can. She takes the cure in her hand, tells him she loves him. He says, till death do us part. He tells her, bottoms up, she drinks it. Damon asks how she feels, and she starts to collapse. And this scene, I have to say, Nina Dobre's performance in this scene was amazing, because she's getting her memories back at this point, which I thought was amazing to watch. You know, now she's getting her memories back, and Damon's carrying her home and says she'll be alright. He steps outside the grill as she comes to. He says she scared the crap out of him. She says she saw their first date, and she's getting back all their memories that Alaric had suppressed. And she smiled and said the cure undid the compulsion. And he says it worked, and she pricks her finger, and it's a really nice moment because she sees that it's not healing, and she's back to being human. And he asks how she feels, and she says she wants to kiss him. Then she does, and his phone rings, and it's Stefan. So she still does have feelings for Damon, which I love seeing. So Stefan says he and Elena are having a moment. Stefan tells Damon not to take the cure. He says Lily's on the loose, and it's a bad time to be human. And then Lilly is there and snaps Damon's neck, and basically she tells Elena that she kept this person at bay for so long, but her sons did this to her, and Lilly sees that Elena's bleeding and says she took the cure, and Lilly says she's human. Elena says she doesn't want to feed on her, and she goes to bite her, and Elena smacks her in the head with something, then runs, and Elena runs into the grill, but is hit with more memories of Damon that take her down, and I love seeing seeing these scenes of her just getting these memories back. And she goes in the kitchen, tries to block the door, but she's not strong. This scene honestly felt like a horror movie. It was honestly legitimately creepy. Seeing Lilly, I have to admit, the girl who plays Lilly, very creepy actor. She's doing a very good job at being creepy. Because at first I'm like, I don't really like her character, but here when she was creepy, I was like, this is awesome. Because she hears her, bursts away into the kitchen, looks around, can't find her. Jo tells Bonnie it's okay. She tells her leave the object in her neck that Lilly stabbed her with. And Jo thanks Bonnie for destroying the ascent. She says twins means that Kai will want to kill her. And Elena calls Stefan and says she's got out through the tunnels. Stefan finds Damon who's coming back to life. Stefan calls him a dick for not telling him and letting him hear from Enzo that he's turning human. And Damon says he knows and says they need to find their mom. And Lily's crying and staggering in the grill. She tells Stefan that he did this to her and says she's a mess. And Lily says she's alone and terrified of falling off the edge. And she says that makes her like Stefan, sad and alone. She cries and grabs a chunk of wood and aims at her chest. And Stefan begs her to stay alive for them. She says he always had such pretty eyes. She goes to stake him instead, but Damon is behind her and stabs a syringe into her neck and knocks her out. So he asks if Stefan's okay, and I thought that was really good. I mean, you can't have this crazy Lily the whole time, and I like that they realize that she's just too crazy to deal with right now. There's so much going on in their lives that it's simply just too crazy right now, so I like that he did put a stop to it, which I thought was awesome. So Alaric meets Jo at the hospital. She hugs him and tells him it's not her blood, and he says Bonnie's fine and Damon gave her some blood. Jo tells him it's twins and shows him an ultrasound, and I thought it was great that we found out that she's having twins, and he says the more the merrier, but Jo says even if Kai never escapes, her family are going to try to take the babies to form a Gemini twin, merge to strip Kai of his power, and that is basically what we thought Dahlia wanted to do in the originals, which I thought was kind of interesting, and they're connecting that. Obviously, now we know that Dahlia didn't want to do that, but he says after they get married, they're going to run away together, and she says she can't ask him to give up his life, and here's the thing, is Jo going to have twins that are like Liv and Luke? Because if she does, that's going to end up terribly because they're going to have to, you know, do that whole thing. They're going to have to go to the merge ceremony, and one of them's going to die and one of them's going to live. Because we know Luke died and Liv lived, and we don't know where Liv is right now, but I think it's really interesting if she does end up having twins like Luke and Liv. So she says she can't ask him to give up his life. He says she and their babies are his life, and he'll keep them safe. And I'm really wondering if they're going to get away. I mean, is everyone going to leave the show? I really hope Alaric and Jo don't leave the show. One of the best parts of the season is having Alaric back on the show and their relationship overall. It's been adorable, and their scenes were adorable, and I really hope that they don't end this relationship after this season because I love them together. So he says Bonnie's fine. Damon gave... I just read this. So Damon finds Elena at the house and says Bonnie and Jo are okay. Lily is laid out for a nap. Elena says she remembers it all now. How they met. How she fell for him and didn't want to. She says she remembers every kiss and conversation. She said they talked about the cure on the island, and if you remember, back then she begged him to take the cure with him. Now, I forgot about this. She actually begged him to take the cure with him, and he said he can't think of anything more miserable than being a human. And this, of course, was before this was when she wanted to, if you remember, when the cure was available, Elena wanted to take it because she wanted to be human. And basically, I loved seeing that because Elena sees that Damon really would be miserable as a human, and basically, she asked what Stefan would think, and he's like, I don't care what Stefan would think. And Ian Somerhalder's performance in the scene was so real. I loved it. I mean, you just see the look in his face. He doesn't care about himself, honestly. He doesn't care. He doesn't give two shits about himself. He cares about Elena. That's who he cares about. He cares about his girlfriend. He wants to make her happy and wants to be with her. And he knows that he can't really be with her right now, but he wants to be with her. And I'm wondering on how this is going to go. And I loved watching this. I thought this was an amazing scene. And basically, we see, basically Elena says she loves him and isn't trying to hurt him, but he can't let him do this until he lets everyone in his life try to talk him out of it, including himself. So he pulls his hand away from her and she walks off, and I thought that was really sad that we saw that happen, definitely. I mean, I don't see this ending happily for Elena and Damon, honestly. We know Elena's leaving the show. I don't really see this ending happily, I have to say, and it definitely was one of the most heartbreaking parts of the episode. So Lily calls out from her cell, and Enzo's there. He says he wanted to make sure she's okay. She asks him to let her out. Stefan says that won't happen and tells Enzo he can take it from her from here. And Enzo says she's fragile and should be around someone she can trust. And Enzo gives in and says he'll come visit, but says it's a family matter now. And Stefan looks at her and turns away. Stefan says she asked what it would be like to have something he cherished for 150 years ripped away, and he said he'd be devastated. He says she'll be his mother for the next century, and the one after that. He says one day she'll see him as her son again. Lilly looks at him and says he has no idea what devastation feels like, and she says he will when she figures out how to get her people back, and she says she will, no matter what it takes, and then we see Kai, and Kai's making cornbread, and this was such an awesome return, I have to say. Kai, as I said, is one of the best parts of the show, and this scene is no exception, because he's making cornbread, and he's got vampire bites on his neck. He makes dinner, sets the table, and goes outside, rings the dinner bell. He says, come and get it. He says a big breakfast for a big day. He woke up the Gemini hybrid, says it's time to get the hell out of this place, laughs wickedly, and I have no idea what's going to happen, and that's basically how the episode ends. So, overall, guys, I thought this was a great episode. Definitely very convoluted with the whole Matt and Tyler thing. I don't really know where they're going with that, and I don't really care where they're going with Matt and Tyler's plot because they kind of just dropped it halfway through the episode. But, first half of the episode, I thought, it's okay. I mean, I loved the Bachelor and Bachelorette part. I thought that was really great. But the second half of the episode I thought was really good. Let's talk about Elena and Damon. As I said, this is going to end up heartbreaking. I really don't see this ending any way except tragedy. I don't see this ending in a happy way at all. And it's sad, but honestly, it is a fitting exit for Elena, honestly. It's the perfect exit for her character. She's always wanted to be human again, and now that she is human, I can understand why Nina Dobrev doesn't want to do a show anymore, because what's the point of Elena being on the show if she's going to be human now? There's no point in her being on the show for another season if she's going to be human. I can totally understand that. But the way they wrote that, it feels like the final season, and there's no reason to continue, but they're going to. So how's that whole thing going to work out? Is Damon going to take the cure? It seems like next week he's not going to listen to Elena. He's still going to do whatever he can to make sure that he can become human again. And some people are talking about how can he take the cure? There's only, how can he take the cure? There's only one cure. Well, Damon's going to try to make a cure that can make himself human, and we'll see what happens there. And I'm actually wondering if Damon's going to be human, which I think is actually really interesting. And also next week is Jo and Alaric's wedding, which I really hope works out for them. Are they going to have a happy life? Do you think they're actually going to get away from Mystic together? I hope it happens, because I want them to be happy. Honestly, I'd be very happy if they end up happy together. I think that'd be awesome, because I want them to really have a happy life together. Lilly is terrifying how to say in this episode. What's going to happen with Lilly and Kai? Obviously, now the Gemini covenant is among them, so it's not going to end well, obviously. But that's basically my review. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Overall, I thought this was definitely one of the stronger episodes of the season. A little bit convoluted. Also, how do you think they're going to handle Tyler's exit? I don't really see how they're handling his exit. I don't see how it's going to be. I feel like it's just going to be really abrupt. And that character, honestly, has no point on the show anymore. The fact that they have this storyline just proves that they have nothing to do with Tyler. And it's just really sad overall. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Daredevil. So I will see you guys for that. Sorry I'm behind on reviews today, guys. I've just been really busy today. So sorry. I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.